I'm Paula de Beer. I work as a living wage officer at FairWear Foundation. And FairWear Foundation is a multi-stakeholder organization that works on improving labor rights in the garment industry. At FairWear over the past years, we found that there are three key inputs for sustainable wage increases. The first is money. You need to find the money somewhere to raise those wages. The second is social dialogue. In order for any wage increase to be sustainable, it's key that workers are involved. And the third is accountability. You want to know and verify whether that extra money actually ends up in the pockets of the workers. So to give a concrete example of how we have been working with our members to actually create those wage increases is our living wage incubator that we've developed, which brings together several brands and allows them to learn from each other what works and what doesn't work. Each of these brands works with one selected factory on a project through which they raise wages. The most important thing that we've learned is that it can be done. Even though it is really difficult, we really have seen through our living wage incubator and in the last brand performance checks of this year that there are several brands that are able to really raise those wages at their production locations. To give an advice, we would say involve your workers, make sure you get them at the negotiation table with the employers. Find out how much money is needed to raise those wages and figure out where you're going to get that money from. Find a way to verify whether this money actually ends up at the workers. So the future of living wage, at least in the clothing industry, but I think anywhere, has two components. First of all, there is really this need for an integrated approach that includes all the actors and that allows all the actors to take their responsibility in the supply chain. Secondly, it's a future in social dialogue. We really see social dialogue and freedom of association as the enabler to higher wages. When workers are involved in the discussions around their wages, it's more likely that these wage increases will be sustainable. So we really see social dialogue as the key towards higher wages in the garment industry. For that reason, we also actively work together with our trade union partners. Personally, I hope that in the coming years, collaborating with our trade union partners and other organizations, we will be able to create enough critical mass to really make systemic change and move towards a new normal for garment workers.